to be done because there's an incredibly large amount of effort and things coming online, as you see with the 5G efforts. We're very strong believers that machines should have their own economy. And so machine economy is what we really focus on. So a lot of companies and people look through the lens of people with blockchain and cryptocurrency. And we look very much through the lens of a machine as it may transact with other machines. So it's good to be here.
I'm Eric, longtime attendee, first-time participant, so thanks for the invite. Blockstream was founded in 2014 with the idea that the Bitcoin blockchain is the most secure and robust blockchain protocol in the world, and so any innovation should at least look at starting with that as the foundation. The problem was there weren't as many innovative features available, and so we started the company in order to extend the Bitcoin currency and the Bitcoin protocol to other use cases, and specifically in the enterprise. So we have an open source blockchain toolkit that allows people to put together different security features and other functionality to stand up their own blockchain. We have the Liquid network, which is one instance of our toolkit that optimizes near instant settlement for Bitcoin exchanges. And we continue to work on the open source project with contributions to segregated witness, Lightning, Mimblewimble, and other enhancements. We just launched a Blockstream satellite network, which allows people that just have a DirecTV satellite dish to receive Bitcoin block data for free anywhere in the world. And so we're very big believers in Bitcoin and very big believers in the blockchain protocol as a platform, and hope everybody looks at implementing it for their use case.
Great. So Janine Grasso, I'm Vice President of Strategy and Ecosystem Development for IBM Blockchain. IBM has been investing in this space for a number of years. We always, when we tell the story, we say 2016 was the year of tourism, 2017 was the year of POCs and pilots, and 2018 is definitely the year of production. So we've done over 400 engagements. We have 56 active networks, but more importantly, we're also a contributor to the Hyperledger Fabric, which is run out of the Linux Foundation. And so we've taken from a technology perspective, but also from a solution and really helping stand up and convene networks for the enterprise. We have not, we're very much blockchain focused, not crypto or even Bitcoin for that matter, but we are certainly working with companies like Stellar, right, to actually use digital currency for some of our solution areas like payments. So very exciting to be here, so great.
Thanks, guys. And as you must have noticed, IBM is perhaps the largest and the grandest adoption of blockchain as a platform across the enterprise, and expands across a number of vertical, whole spectrum of use cases. But Janine, as we all have seen, the origins of blockchain really come from the consumer side of use cases. Bitcoin was intended to be a consumer activism platform in order to resist censorship from sovereign authorities. How do you see this technology morphing into an enterprise platform, and especially what characteristics of blockchain make it relevant in the enterprise?
I mean, listen, it's already in the enterprise, right? We have, again, dozens of active networks from supply chain, and I'll give you a good example there, and payments, but media, music, automobiles, any industry that has multiple parties that need to work together kind of on a workflow, blockchain can be applied. So I'll give you one because food is such an easy one to explain to most people, right? And there's some great videos out there, but mangoes, right? Or even romaine lettuce, right? How much conversation is going on around romaine lettuce? The reason why this is happening is because they cannot trace back from the farm all the way to the storefront where it comes from. And so one of the things that, IBM, obviously, we're very passionate in, creating a greater good for the world is getting the farmers all the way to the distributors and the manufacturers, and ultimately to, that impacts the consumer, getting all of those people to join our Food Trust platform. And what that does is now, instead of 40 days finding out where that contaminated product is, you can find out in seconds. So we already have dozens of companies that we're onboarding, Dole, Driscoll, Kroger, and we have 40 products that are now available through this food trust. And of course, the goal is to get all products through that. So that's one example, and of course, we have others in, with our ocean carriers. We announced something with Maersk and a lot of the other big suppliers. So it really is an exciting time. And again, we're taking very much an industry-centric, how do we transform, how do we remove the inefficiencies that happen across the ecosystem?
Awesome. That's a very broad spectrum of use cases. But the origins of Bitcoin were largely around the payment use case. And then Bitcoin evolved into a crypto asset with a bunch of other coins. There are, I think, about 1,800 coins right now trading in the markets. And therefore, it's really turned into an asset management network, very fast growing, turning into a very massive one. So, Eric, do you see these use cases also come up in the enterprise world, payments, asset management?
I think so. I think they facilitate future use cases for sure. So, you could argue that Bitcoin is the most successful proof of concept of blockchain technology. And so what technology is very good at right now is transactional use cases. So one of the products that we just launched with Intercontinental Exchange, who owns New York Stock Exchange and a big data services company, is we are pushing trade information, pricing and order book information for 40 cryptocurrencies in 200, I think, trading pairs based on our relationships with the cryptocurrency exchanges that we're bringing into our liquid network. And so I think that transparency and some of the other changes that are occurring kind of with institutional investors are really forcing Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies to be put in a separate asset class. And so regulators, I think, will be better able to regulate cryptocurrencies. And not that every enterprise use case needs a currency or an asset, but that certainly facilitates a lot of the things that you both are working on, because you have that asset that can be used to then build other applications that use that as an engine for whatever the ultimate use case is. So it's definitely going to enable lots of really interesting enterprise applications down the road.
Awesome. You guys know where to go to get advice on cryptocurrency investments now. So when we get pitched by entrepreneurs who are leveraging blockchain, one of the common kind of use cases is that of disintermediation, where there are known industries, large third-party trusted intermediaries that the entrepreneurs try to go and disrupt. And therefore, pitching blockchain as a layer of digital trust, which doesn't require an institution or an intermediary to charge a big spread for facilitating the transactions. And therefore, the vision is to see blockchain as a standard for service and data exchange. Especially, Alison, coming from the world of machines, where the volume and the number of transactions is exponentially higher than what we have seen so far. Do you see that becoming a reality, especially for exchanging data between machines and people?
Yeah, a lot of what we end up seeing is that you've got this kind of hybrid approach from most enterprises around how they integrate machines with any sort of distributed ledger technology. Some want to do this concept of attestation. They want to prove that a thing has or has not happened. This is often what you see, I think, with perhaps the IBM demonstrations and POCs around custody, provenance, proving that a physical phenomenon did or did not happen. And then you get this other side who is a little bit forward thinking, but very much wanting to have machines transact, actually pay and be paid. It's very popular in the autonomous vehicle space, as you can imagine. When there's no driver in a car, how does that car be paid? How does it pay a toll? How does it pay for its electricity or fuel? So we're finding a lot of demand right now from major multinationals on helping them implement this. And of course, what comes along with this is massive scale issues. You can't treat this today like a database, nor should you. From a computer science background, it seems like a terrible idea. It's the wrong data structure. But it does bring a lot of positive things. And so we're finding most of the challenges in our space right now is to twofold. One, scale the blockchain efforts so that they can start supporting more attestation, because as you see, IoT is continuing to grow. But more importantly, I think, and this is where we spend a lot of our time, is if you don't trust the data going into a blockchain or any other distributed system, it's instead of garbage in, garbage out, it's garbage in, trusted garbage out, which is bananas. It's like we don't really want that, I don't think. And so we're strong believers of increasing the area under the curve, if you will, of trust pushing the edge, the trust to the edge of the network, very much so to putting chips into physical hardware. If you're familiar with the crypto world, hardware wallets, Filament actually works and has built a silicon semiconductor that acts as a machine-specific hardware wallet. And we think that's essential. If you don't have that, you can't trust where you store your private keys. In EEPROM, in Flash, that's terrible. Where it needs to be is into a secure enclave. You can send it in outcomes of transaction and signed, and you can now transact and participate in an economic network. And that's what we mean when we talk about machine economy. So it's very difficult to be a startup and work in the hardware space, but it's essential, and no one else is really doing it now, although our friends at IBM are now also doing it, so thank you. More the merrier. And it's really important, though, I think, and it's essential, and I think we'll look back seeing that today is now really the dial-up era of blockchain, and we're going to get now into the 5G era.
Absolutely.
It is, indeed, so we're very excited.
Completely. And you bring up a relevant point around scale, and we've heard a lot about scalability of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but scale has a different meaning in an enterprise world. Would love to hear Janine's thoughts. Given projects like the Musk JV, the gargantuan global scale that you're dealing with, how do you make blockchain work?
Yeah, I mean, and that was one of the reasons why we chose Fabric, right? Because you need the scale. You need to be able to, pump thousands and, whatever the right number is of transactions through it. But when we built our platform, we actually built it on the mainframe. And so we have two versions. But again, the reason why is we were solving for enterprise. And so with that, you have to be able to, from a technology perspective, solve that first. The other side of the coin, which I think is the harder to do, right, is solving for the governance of it, right? And so to get scale, you need to onboard members. How do you do that at scale? And with what we're doing with Food Trust and even a lot of the consortiums that we're supporting, getting the onboarding to get the good data into the blockchain to then create that governance, it's a lot harder than everyone thought, right? So the role that IBM is playing is not just on the technology side, but it's helping enterprises and companies and startups create that, what we call the convening services, right? Get the parties together and then come up with the right governance model depending on the situation.
Absolutely, and in today's public narrative, governance means data privacy, data provenance. How do you make sure trade secrets, be it retailers, retail consumers' trade secrets or enterprise trade secrets are protected? And especially the work that Blockstream has been doing, being a very vocal advocate of data privacy. Would love to hear your thoughts on how do you see this topic evolve in the world of blockchain?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and something that, as you pointed out initially, is one of the driving factors of Bitcoin in the first place. And so I think that the scale issue and the privacy issue are a bit related because to achieve that scale, you need to, it's a kind of a caching layer, you can think of it as, on top of the main blockchain so that you have individual payment channels and can settle transactions peer-to-peer without needing to post everything to the main blockchain. There are also things like Mimblewimble, which is way over my head, but our head of research has done a lot of talks on Mimblewimble, so if you search for that, you can find some really cool YouTube links. Radically different way of organizing transactions on a blockchain, but the things that they learned when they dissected Mimblewimble are they're able to be implemented today in blockchain without having that same radical shift. So cryptography, we have features on our platform where you can encrypt the value of the transaction. It supports multiple assets, so you can encrypt the assets that you're transacting. So these things are important for enterprise customers who, like Janine was saying, need to work together, may not necessarily trust each other, but trust the protocol and trust that collectively the group can operate functionally. And so that cryptography and privacy is important.
Absolutely. I think we are running out of time, so maybe we can conclude with another lightning round and have two questions in that lightning round. One, what is the killer application that you would expect to be ubiquitous by end of this decade, which is driven by blockchain, that we would all just take for granted and be using every day? And two, how do you grow this new community, be it on the technology side, around developers, be it on the business side? Because when we look at previous new platforms that emerge, be it cloud computing or big data, there were several large consumer internet companies, the Googles, LinkedIn's, Amazons of the world, rallying large communities of developers. Would love to hear your thoughts on what is the analogous equivalent of that you'd like to see happen in the world of blockchain. Maybe Alison, we can start with you.
Sure. It's dangerous to predict the future. I'll do my best. We spend a lot of time in the vehicle space, so I really do think autonomous vehicles is so ripe for it. A close second is transactive grids. So in the energy space, such a fragmented industry, and now that consumers of energy can be producers as well, I believe that that's ripe for crypto and for blockchain. How to get developers more involved and what can be used, I think a lot of it's just education. I'm sure everyone on this panel spends so much time educating in this space, and I think that's going to continue for a while. And so I think as that continues to happen, I'm starting to see in my hometown university having blockchain like a track, which is fantastic because that's how we're going to train the next engineers to be blockchain native, and we're not quite there yet.
I'm really excited about some of the payment opportunities. So international trade finance is something that's has a lot of opportunity to make it more efficient, faster, cheaper. So I think that's something that definitely we're going to see very soon. And I think making the technology more accessible for developers will help it, will encourage people to use it more, and then will generate more interest for some of the lower level protocol development, which is kind of where all the the blockchain development that you hear people talk about is happening now. So one of the reasons Ethereum has been so popular is because they make it very easy for developers to build applications and really start playing around with it. So having more tools that help people jump in and use an existing blockchain as opposed to rolling up their sleeves and having to assemble it on their own, I think would really help grow the community.
So what I think, my prediction, I guess, would be on your phone, you have an app, you can scan any product and know exactly the origin of it. I do see that will be the future, right? There will be no more, what am I eating? I'm told that this is, best quality wine, even right? Wine, diamonds, food, it all applies. So I see it being so simple. An app on the phone that will ultimately give us complete transparency into every asset type.
Awesome. So the collective prediction is dining trusted food while seated in autonomously driven vehicles.
That's right. There you go.
That's what we're headed towards. Awesome. I think we have a couple of minutes for questions from the audience. I see already hands rising up. If we could get microphones.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so seems really exciting. I just worry, of course, about using all computation for communication. Should this replace TCP/IP? What don't we want to be using blockchain for?
I mean, TCP/IP is going to be very specific to networking, right? This is kind of a different thing.
Yeah.
They all require different types of protocols, and so I believe that at least the Bitcoin blockchain uses TCP/IP for its peer-to-peer network, maybe UDP. But the point is that I don't think it replaces really anything except for the thing we've not had before, which is trust. Or trust-specified networks, which we've never had until this point. So I think everything else stays.
It's not going to replace the database either.
I hope not,
right?
yeah.
Because that's point to point. That serves a purpose,
Yeah.
right? I think to your point, it's solving multiple transactions and parties coming together when they have their siloed, kind of workflows, and now sharing a ledger that can give the immutability, trust, transparency, and provenance. That's really the sum.
I'm a blockchain newbie, so I'm going to ask that question. The food traceability use case in particular, what is the specific problem that blockchain solves that allows that to happen that it cannot do other ways?
Sure. So again, if you think about a farmer, right, a packager, a distributor, a manufacturer, storefront, they all operate today in their silos. If everyone ports their data onto this shared ledger, and as it goes from the farm, right, we create on the block, there's a transaction, right, that has encryption and hashing. It then moves up through the workflow, and you have complete transparency on where it was, the freshness, the quality, what farm it came from. And so if there is a recall, right, which we've seen many of recently, within seconds you can know exactly what farm it came from and where those products exist on the shelves.
So maybe one last question.
Just in terms of the enterprise use cases, it sure seems like a lot of them revolve around multiple business entities and the coordination that's required amongst them, which is not something that startups are normally well equipped to do. So it seems like an interesting technology for a specific set of enterprise cases where this is kind of multi-party trust issue. And as you pointed out, there's a lot of legal implications to that as much as there are technical implications. I struggle to understand how a newly funded venture-backed startup is going to park itself in the middle of one of these ecosystems. So is this mostly a big company game outside of all the financial applications, which are kind of separate as something different?
So I'll come at it from two different perspectives, because we're working with over 300 startups right now. And it's startups who, let's say, want to create an application that can sit on top of a network, right? So, because it's going to be API. So we have companies that are saying, listen, I'm really good in retail. I'm not going to own the network, but I want to add utility services on top. So we have a lot of companies that are building apps to sit on top of our networks. On the other side, we have companies that have come to us that say, I want to transform voting. I want to transform diamond trade. And they are standing up their own networks. They have created the applications, IBM is powering the technology, and they are literally onboarding jewelry manufacturers. And so we are seeing it on both sides of the house. But I think it's definitely a valid concern. And one of the other things that we do is, we do a design thinking session where if someone has an idea, but they don't actually know how to architect it, we bring them in for a day and we bring in our technical resources and help them do that.
Thanks a lot, guys. I think we have completely exhausted our time. Thanks, Alison. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Jenny, for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's continue this conversation during the cocktail hour.